we're going to start off with a question for the entire group. So according to 2022 research by ServiceNow and Thought Lab, 35% of public and private sector organizations globally have provided a higher quality of service by tightening, aligning customer experience and employee experience. And this number is expected to grow to 43% by this year. So total experience is really that approach that organizations are taking to combine the experiences of all users that they interact with, employees, their customers, their internal customers. So how are your organizations using this approach to create stronger relationships with your customers and your employees? Kris?
Okay. I'll take a stab at this one just because we've had to take this approach, because when we talk about soldiers, they don't neatly align into one or the other. So is a soldier a customer? Is a soldier an employee? Is a soldier something else entirely? Now, when I was working in Human Resources Command, obviously they're a consumer of our services, they're a customer, but they're also employees of the Army at large. So what we had to do was separate out a totally different category on how we were looking at end-to-end total experience.
Yeah, and similarly at CBP, we have a similar experience that our customer is actually our employees. So the experience to the customer is our Border Patrol agents, our OFO officers. So we had to look at it a little bit differently to something similar to a chain or some type of other industry. Our customer is the frontline officers. Their engagement with the field customers is dependent on how well we provide customer services in cloud and operations to them.
And I bet that that's really varies with those folks being out in the field, not at the desk, right? The type of experience that they're needing and wanting really varies from your traditional desk employee.
Absolutely. We've realized that low-end solutions such as connectivity is very important to a Border Patrol agent. That's a part of the customer experience. Interesting enough, when we reach out to the field officers, they're not really interested in the high-end application development. It's all about connectivity. I can't use my TAC devices. I'm blind out here. So that customer experience has resonated back into our field offices.
Yeah, I bet.
I think similar to my panelists here, so experience for us in DLA, our customers, our users, our internal employees are tightly tethered together. We're not successful if we don't really tap into the defense industrial base. So for us, it's delivering those capabilities in a synergistic fashion so that the employee who's helping to service the warfighter, our vendors, our suppliers, they're getting a similar experience at the same time. Because in some cases, our vendors and our suppliers support closely the warfighter. So it's really a synergistic approach to delivering capabilities.
Yeah, similar to my colleagues, being in the Office of Management for the NSF Office of Inspector General, we're a small office, 87 folks on board, a very strong remote hybrid posture. So a lot of our customers, which are colleagues, our employees, don't come into headquarters very often. They're out in the field, in their offices, going to U.S. attorneys' offices, going to grantee offices when they're doing audits, et cetera. And we need to make sure that we're providing the tools they need to do their jobs effectively, but also efficiently, right? To make sure that we're changing with the times and providing them the tools they need. So the question really now becomes from our office, you tell us what and we'll tell you how.
Sure. Yeah, I think we've all experienced the shift over the course of our careers from having experiences at home or in our personal life and then not having that same experience at work, and trying to get to a point where we're having those more tightly aligned, I think is really valuable, and I think we're all starting to get there, right? Javier, this question's actually directed at you. So customers want reliable service across all the different channels that they interact with. So that might be text, chat, phone, email. How do you sort of define that approach or interact with that approach to make sure that it's seamless across all those different experiences?
Yeah, this is, certainly a journey, not a destination, right?
Right.
We started, I've been in this office almost 2 years now. Early on, it was really basically emails to individuals. Then we became, this email alias organization so that multiple people had access to a question or things that they needed, and we didn't have a single point of failure. Now we're going into the interestingly enough, a ServiceNow platform for HR using HRSD and our legal services in the LSD as well, to provide that seamless experience for our folks, because we really don't expect them to know what to ask necessarily. And creating these, being able to build out these modules within ServiceNow and other platforms to show them how easy it could be and change the dynamic, right? And try to, somebody early on had talked about, this community of the unwilling or something to that effect. And it's, moving people's cheese, right? If anybody read the movie, Don't Move My Cheese, it really is a thing, right? People are accustomed to certain things. They're comfortable with it. I still get questions like, why can't I just reach out to Javier because I know that Javier's working on it? Well, but maybe Javier's on leave and he's allowed to do that, right? And do you want to wait a week? Is that really the employee or customer experience you want? So it's really that changing that mindset from a personal human perspective, but also from a automation perspective, making sure that we're providing the right tools that people need, even if they don't know it yet.
Yeah, I was talking to a customer earlier today who was saying we really have to show our customers the value so that they can kind of get on board with us. And I think by being able to provide that experience where I can pick up, the interaction from one channel to another, hopefully gets that employee to a place where they feel like they've been shown the value of allowing their cheese to be moved, to use your term. Mark, so CX and EX are interconnected. But does one ever take precedence over the other? And what is the balance that organizations need to take to work to meet their missions while balancing those two?
Thank you for the question. That's going to get me in the most trouble. This is a recorded session. I probably have 70,000 of my closest employee friends are waiting on this answer. But historically, customer service has always been the main focus. But moving forward, employee focus, they're intertwined with each other. That's why you have the total experience, high-level setup for. Customer experience, understanding both sides as a CX leader, understanding what the challenges of employee experience and vice versa is probably the most important. So that long-winded answer is both. They're both very important. And we're seeing that customer experience was the primary focus for an organization. But over time, the last 5 or 10 years, employee experience has probably become as important or more important, especially in my organization.
Yeah. Diane, if I can jump on that one also, just to kind of echo what Mark said about how they're completely intertwined. As we look at providing the best customer service possible, in our case, providing HR services for our soldiers, by looking at the employee experience, giving them the tools, the time, the resources, the support, to provide what is needed in terms of help for the soldier, you can't separate the two, because I can't just tell the employee that they have to do this job without supporting them and understanding their experience and their needs and their resources.
Yeah, I think we all have experienced, just as customers ourselves, what it's like to be served or helped by someone who likes their job and has the resources they need. Do you want to add something there?
Yeah, one of the things we found, and it's a challenge within IT organizations, the customer experience for the IT professional may look different than to the layman, to the business, to the operator. And so it's really helping us to understand, taking the IT lens off just a little bit and understanding what a customer who may be immersed in legacy technology for multiple decades, how they may view the technology as being a little more intimidating. And so experiencing it through their eyes and bringing them along progressively. To Javier's point, tell us the what, we'll tell you the how. But that is a relationship building process in my experience.
Yeah, getting that trust.
We've also seen acceleration probably during COVID for employee experience. As everyone knows, prior to COVID, meetings were held in face-to-face in conference rooms, and the employee experience, I believe Teams or WebEx became the most important application during the COVID years. So there's a high-level focus on employee engagement, health of employees, how they are doing out in the field with remote connections now. So employee experience has probably risen to the equality of customer experience.
Yeah.
I think there's, a word that we use a lot is intentionality, right? Making sure that we're communicating in a way that's more intentional than it was pre-COVID, right? Pre-COVID, it was, pretty much routine. We knew where everybody was. They're sitting down the hallway in the office next door for the most part. Now we've gotten to this, post-COVID, somewhat hybrid, somewhat remote posture, depending on the organization you work in. And we've been trying to be more intentional of how we communicate. I'm proud to say that in the 23 Federal Employee Viewpoint Survey, our office came out with a score of 88 for employee experience. That's amazing. And we had an 85% response rate, right? So it's not like 10% of the people said, that 88% is good. It's, 85% saying that we're doing a really good job on the employee experience piece. Nobody's perfect. I think it's a very nascent process. We're talking about it backstage about, how does this evolve into something else tomorrow, 6 months from now, a year from now? But I think people are starting to understand, to the point made before, is if you're happy, if you're satisfied, if you're engaged, if your experience as an employee is good, by default, your posture is going to be different, it's going to be more positive, and hopefully that translates into a better customer experience and then provide that total experience that we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, congratulations on that score. That is certainly an accomplishment. So the next question is really about how organizations are rethinking the services that they offer and they deliver to the public. So how you reach people, how can you be more efficient, how can you build trust? So how do you all break down silos and build cross-functional processes to improve availability, transparency, and speed?
So I'll
Yeah,
take
please.
a stab at it. So what we're learning through some trials, if I'm being honest, is that the public for us oftentimes is the warfighter, right? The military services, the combatant commands, those are the folks that we want to deliver products to. And that experience involves customers, vendors, suppliers, our IT shop, our employees, 25,000 member employee force. So it's bringing folks along on the journey. Sometimes that takes the form of, and we've done this, our platform lead for ServiceNow has conducted workshops to say, you know what, we're going to bring you in early in the experience. We're going to help you shape and frame what the experience will look like. Now we've got some boundaries, but we get them vested in early. I think that's a big plus for us. Additionally, to continue from an agile perspective, let's get you something that's minimally viable. Now, I know, we all know, being IT folks, that sometimes our customers focus on the minimal and not the viable.
Right. I was just talking about this with the customer.
Building that trust and, hey, I'm going to deliver you something viable today, but I'm going to commit to the promises to continue to deliver in an agile fashion. And I expect you're going to learn more from being inside the tool and experiencing the tool. So that's some of what we're trying to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm going to build a little bit off of that also and just say, we were talking a little bit earlier about consistency of experience and about consistency of quality. Looking at this from I don't think I have to tell everybody just how challenging the recruiting piece of this is. Looking at holistically the Army brand, we can't do any of these things separately. We can't look at just a branding and a marketing piece, a recruiting piece, a soldier experience once you're in the Army piece, and a transition veteran experience. We have to look at the entirety of the process and break down the silos so that we have consistency of expectation. Where we get into trouble is when we have those inconsistencies and it breeds distrust. Because if we promise something, we don't deliver on it. I mean, I can't go out and sell a broken car. I've got to be able to, on the human resources side and the veteran experience side, make those align with everything that we're promising on the front end, which is something that we're trying very hard to map out and do.
Yeah, I think a lot of what both of you are saying really comes back to that trust, right? Getting the trust of your customer, whoever that may be, employees, internal, external.
And we've lost quite a bit of trust by not aligning to understanding the cross-functionality within an organization. Our Border Patrol agents, whether a Southern Border Patrol agent has a different experience than a Northern Border Patrol agent. And that data sharing is key and monumental in understanding how the things that you implement affect all of your agency, not just the one or two situations that are deemed viable within headquarters. We've always been challenged with that communication out to the employee experience. And one of the things I would implore to anyone going down this journey is don't just follow the legacy data capture, whether it be a survey, everyone hates a 100-page survey or some type of chat. Look at some of your inherent tools for employee or customer experience, logs, event logs, mission reports, things where you could hear either the frustration or the acceptance of the way processes and things are flowing within your org.
Yeah, I think being able to do some of that modernization and transformation instead of just rebuilding what you already had is something that often gets lost in some of these big projects.
I think we also have to have, in customer experience especially, we have to have thick skins, right? And we can't take things personally unless they're really personal, then that's a different story, right? In an Office of Inspector General, our external customers, a lot of them are upset. They're filing a complaint, potentially reporting whistleblower retaliation. They're submitting a complaint again, alleging research misconduct, things like that. So we really need to be level-headed, not take things personally, because it may impact the work that we do or how we see those complaints, right? And again, if your employee experience is positive, if you're more satisfied as an employee, odds are that you're going to be much more level-headed. You're not going to take things personally. You're going to look at things unbiased. Our assistant IG for investigation says all the time, we follow the facts, right? There is no, personal investment really in any of these investigations or potential investigations. Same thing with audits. That oversight piece is really unbiased, and we just look at the facts and go from there.
Yeah. This next question's for you, James. So the DLA, Defense Logistics Agency, provides worldwide logistics support for all the military personnel readiness. What investments have you made in TX to ensure that mission success?
Now, great question. A little bit of context for DLA, and maybe this is known, but I think I mentioned earlier, we've got a 25,000 member workforce. We deliver between $47 and $48 billion in goods and services every year. And beyond that, we're heavily dependent upon the DIB, the Defense Industrial Base, to deliver. And so maybe we have about 10,000 automated contracts daily. So I just want to give a little bit of scope to answer that question a little bit. What we've begun to do across a vast space, we also manage 9 classes of supply. And so what we're learning when we deal with each of those individual major subordinate commands within DLA, what we're learning and unpacking a little bit more is that there are probably more similarities and differences, but when you are highly focused, as you should be, on delivering, MREs or repairables or fuels to that customer, it's super important that you have a platform that's robust enough to kind of manage. I think I mentioned earlier, but if I didn't, we're undertaking a digital business transformation. There are 19 initiatives, not the least of which is moving our ERP, which is SAP, from a legacy platform, multiple decades old, to the latest S/4HANA platform. In doing so, we made a pretty, I think, important investment in ServiceNow in 2019. One of the attractive features of that platform was that we could utilize ServiceNow in concert with our ERP to deliver what ServiceNow does well, low code, maybe interfacing, and still get the transactional horsepower of the ERP. So some of those investments have been critical for us. Now, I'm glad we did it now. At the time, we were a little bit hesitant. We also invested in capabilities across CRM, demand management, portfolio management, and so on and so forth. So we're really moving away from that old analog thinking to a digital core platform with mature APIs. So I think the investments we made in our platforms while we're modernizing some legacy systems set us up nicely for delivering across a space where we expect vendors to be on our platforms, we expect the warfighter in some cases, and certainly our 25,000 member workforce. So those are some of the investments. I could go on, but I won't. Just a few things we've done.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's having a huge impact on the workforce and probably allowing you to retain your workforce and make sure that they don't get too frustrated with some of those legacy applications, right? So this next question's for you, Kris. What are the biggest challenges that the U.S. Army Recruiting Command faces in implementing new technologies to support people, analytics, and talent management? I know you've probably, it's a big question.
I was going to say, is there an all of the above answer here?
Right.
I have to add a disclaimer that my snark is not the opinion of the Army and the DoD when it comes to some of these things. But in truth, that's kind of what draws us to things like this. It is a challenge. But I want to kind of come back to the silo discussion that we had earlier. Anytime you have decisions being made as independent entities and not part of a holistic process, you're going to run into challenges. So that's one of the biggest things we have is we're looking at people analytics and talent management. If we look at each segment of a soldier experience by itself and not in context, then we're going to have problems with authorities, we're going to have problems with the underlying data architecture, all the different pieces of what we need to implement these programs. Now, one of the things I'm excited about and we're starting to do is that we're partnering across the HR enterprise with PEO EIS, with acquisitions, with technology, with our partners in academia and industry, and really looking at how we structure our total soldier experience. How we are looking at the overarching authorities, building coalitions and building collaboration across this space, and how we're building the underlying architecture and selection of technologies that use this data longitudinally. So the more we can overcome those, the more we can look at this as not just a whole bunch of different investments that we're going to go and immediately get quick wins for, but things that are going to turn some immediate ROI for us, but also long-term investments that are going to improve the overall quality of the total experience, we're going to do well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure that helps you really direct where your work is, and really leveraging that data is not something that we all were probably seeing earlier on in our careers, and it's really been a big change. So the last question is for everyone. What are really the biggest benefits that your organizations are experiencing after adopting these approaches? And I think you've all touched a little bit on each of them, but what are you hearing from the field? What do you think is really the longest lasting and biggest benefit you're seeing?
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned, it's a very nascent process, right? But the steps that we've taken have been very positive. We're in some really exciting times, but we've been changing the tires while the car is moving.
Right.
And I think we need to take a breath sometimes and really talk about that strategy, what we're going to do going forward, 3, 6, 9, 12 months, 1, 2, 3 years. May 7th, we're bringing in our IT team and our data operations group into the NSF headquarters and really just have a strategy day. Close the doors, shut down your email. I know that's hard, but we have to do it. And just really start thinking about what the next thing is. Where are we in the AI implementation? Where are we in automation? What are the things that we could do to help our customers, our colleagues, our other employees in order to help them do their job better? And I think people are starting to understand that we are the professionals in that sphere, and that's a difficult thing to acknowledge when you've been kind of on your own for a number of years. Sure. And we're a very, our Office of Management was created in 2018. Before that, it was, mission support was really distributed across the office. So we're still a learning organization, but in that regard, we have the opportunity to create something that's really never been done before. And I think that's the piece that really excites people.
Yeah, that's a big impact, creating something that's brand new, right? Kris, did you have something to add there?
Yes, I think for us, because ours is nascent, we're not seeing some of the immediate benefits that you would hope to see from an overall experience model. But the biggest benefit I think we've seen so far is cultural. Because we're moving from a model where kind of the standard Army experience has been needs of the Army, selfless service, you will do it, execute as ordered, essentially, right? Well, we're pulling that back a little bit, and we're really taking some work at understanding intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. What calls people to do certain types of work and what makes them really good at it. In order to build the broadest and deepest talent bench for the United States Army that we can possibly build, these are things we have to take into account and shape and incentivize for our people to go and build and develop and succeed and execute the way that we need them to. So for us, just getting the culture change where we're not looking at people as interchangeable cogs, where we're looking at how many of what type, but where we're instead really delving deep into the data and into the person and asking who this person is an incredible change, and we're very excited about where it's taking us.
I think for DLA, the biggest benefit is yet to be realized. However, there's a tension in getting there. Traditionally, we've delivered in more siloed fashions than we have trying to do now. It's causing us as an agency, as an organization, to think more holistically to deliver enterprise capabilities. I think the benefit on the back end, and we're starting to realize it, not without some heavy sledding, is that we'll be able to reduce the IT inventory, reduce costs, deliver a common user experience across multiple platforms that's seamless. But I don't want it to be lost that there's some real challenges in getting there for us. But that benefit is yet to come, but I believe we'll get there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're definitely seeing short and long-term benefits to adopting this model. We built an employee recognition application on ServiceNow, seen to be low-hanging fruit, basically moving a small PDF form into an automated fashion, and you would think that that would have low benefit to the organization, something easy to implement. But after submission, employee submissions of awards went up 43%, 92% increase in maximum amount of award allocations to employees. And believe it or not, FEV scores for that particular area skyrocketed as well. So we're definitely seeing short-term benefits. The employees are feeling it. The customers are feeling it. So this is a journey. And as we stood up this new CBP experience division within our organization, I think we'll see successes over the next couple of years.
I bet. And I mean, sometimes it's just those small changes, and the accessibility of a simple form can, it sounds like, have a much larger impact than you think it really would in the first place.
Absolutely.
Well, I've really enjoyed all of your discussion and your answers today, and look forward to continuing on this journey with all four of you. So thanks for your time today.